And this is something that I personally am really passionate about right now. And as we're kind of going through, I'll use myself as an example, going through some of these things. So hopefully you guys can learn something really good and fun and exciting. We'll also get a chance to do a couple of little activities during the course of the presentation as well. So the first thing to talk about is stress itself, and everybody experiences stress, right? There is nobody on this planet that has not experienced stress at some point in their life. It is part of the human experience. If anybody has ever not experienced stress, please tell me, because I need to know what your secret is, because I definitely have been experiencing stress in my life. But there's also two different types of stress. There is such a thing as good stress, which most people don't realize. But good stress is that stress that helps us study for finals. It helps us focus. It helps us get the task that we need to get done, finished, and done well. And when you have been feeling that good stress, when you're finished, when you complete that task, there's a real sense of accomplishment. You're like, yeah, this was awesome. It was hard, but I did it. And you take a lot of pride in what you've done. When we're experiencing bad stress, that's the stress that when we get through it, when we finish, we feel drained. We feel like we can't focus. It's hard to pay attention to things. It's hard to remember what we've been working on and what we've been doing. It really puts that strain on our bodies and on our brains, and it makes it very difficult to function. And with everything going on with COVID-19 right now, a lot of what may have been good stress with classes has probably migrated toward that bad stress category for a number of people, because there's so many other different things that we are worried about, and it's not just passing our classes, it's a whole bunch of other different things. I hear a lot, I like to bring this up just because I hear this so much, like, oh, stress is going to give you a heart attack. And so far, research hasn't shown a direct link between stress and heart disease. But what we do know about stress is that physically it increases hormones in our body like adrenaline and cortisol. And those are the things that basically, if you know about the fight or flight response in our body, it prepares us. It gets everything kind of going and up and alert so that we can either fight to save our lives or run away to save our lives. So our blood pressure, heart rate is going up, and long-term impact of all of that adrenaline and cortisol, if it keeps being activated constantly, it can strain your cardiovascular system. So while there's not that direct link, there are some indirect ways where stress can impact our heart health as well. So, we talk about stress, but everybody feels stress a little bit differently. So looking at this slide, think to yourself about what are some of the things that you feel when you feel stressed. Back when I was in college doing my undergrad work, I would remember, the semester would finish up, we'd get into finals, we're pulling all-nighters, we get through our exams, it's great, woohoo. You get home, and within like the first 2 days of winter break, I would be sick, and I would pretty much be sick the entire winter break, which stinks because you're finally have a break and you want to enjoy yourself, but you can't. So stress really weakens my immune system. I tend to get sick a lot when I'm feeling really stressed. Another thing for me is I feel a lot of it in the muscle tension kind of department. I feel a lot in my neck, my shoulders, and the more stressed I am, I find that I almost start hunching over because my muscles become so tight. Again, for students, two of the big ones that we look at with stress are the ability to concentrate and a lack of motivation, actually. So when we're stressed, it's impacting our brain's ability to focus on things that aren't the thing that's stressing us out. Again, think about that fight or flight. We hyper focus on certain things, but when we have a lot of other things going on, it makes it difficult to focus and concentrate on those other things. And motivation can really get zapped for people who are dealing with a lot of stress. So when you're trying to be in your classes. And again, online classes might be difficult. You might be watching a pre-recorded lecture, or you might just have to read from a textbook. And for some people that's difficult in the beginning, you know, difficult enough just because that might not be how they learn best. But then problems being able to concentrate can make that a little bit harder. And then again, lack of motivation when we have to do projects, we have to do papers, we have to study for exams, when our motivation gets really zapped from that stress, you know, it's hard for us to get those things started. And even if we get them started, you know, if we have to put it down for a minute, you know, go get a snack or use the restroom, it might be hard to pick it back up again. Trouble sleeping is something we also see a lot. Another one I personally feel, irritability. I get very irritable when I'm stressed out, and it's really easy to snap at people and kind of be mean to people who don't deserve it. So that's something that I always have to keep on my mind. And the reason why we talk about these signs is because if we are aware of them, we can hopefully do something to manage that stress rather than just let it take us over in the moment. And now adding COVID-19 and the coronavirus on top of what would be, you know, normally a stressful period during the semester, it kind of takes all of that to another level. What we're experiencing currently is what we call a collective trauma. This is something that is not, you know, a car accident that one or two people might experience, or a you know, a assault of some kind that one or two people might experience. This is something that has the potential to impact our society as a whole and for generations to come. If you think about some other collective traumas that have happened within the last, you know, 100 years or so, the Great Depression. How did the Great Depression change the way that people behaved? How did it change the way that people thought? How did it change their mental health experience? Things like 9/11 also, that was again another collective trauma that really impacted way beyond the people who were there physically in those locations on that day. And we think about how society has changed just since that incident almost 20 years ago. So some of the things that we've really been noticing from people, you know, not just students, but, you know, across the board, we're seeing increased fear, we're seeing increased anxiety, depression, and anger as well. It sometimes feels like there's a lot of uncertainty going on. Some people have lost jobs. Some people might still have their jobs, but they don't know how long they might have their jobs. When the college changed to an online format, that was really confusing, trying to figure out what is the, you know, are grades going to change, these new incompletes and withdrawals that we have. That was a lot to figure out, and we didn't get that information right away, you know, and that can lead to a lot of that anxiety, fear, anger. Health, the concern that anytime you walk out of your house, potentially you're putting your health at risk. That's definitely been a large impact on people. And things have been changing so quickly. One of the things that I like to kind of bring up is, if you remember when this all very first started and everyone kind of made a rush on, you know, the masks and trying to get the masks, and then it was, no, don't use the masks, it could increase your risk of, you know, getting the infection. And now all of a sudden it's everybody has to wear masks. And it's like, okay, you know, I'm so confused. I don't know what to believe. I don't know who to believe. So again, that fear, that anxiety. And when we're feeling those intense emotions, that can lead to depression as well. Another thing that I found has been really interesting that people are experiencing, again, my psych nerd brain, I find this all very fascinating as well as troubling, is a lot of sleep disturbance. And it's not just insomnia. It's not just that people can't fall asleep or they're not staying asleep, but we're having really vivid dreams. So they don't necessarily have to be COVID-19 related. They can be pretty run-of-the-mill dreams, but people are remembering them with a lot more frequency. And what we're finding is that, you know, we're thinking so much, there's so much more on our minds, and it all is kind of spilling over into our unconscious more than it normally does, which is kind of creating those vivid dreams. And when we're having these really vivid dreams, like for me personally, it happens to be work dreams a lot. So this time where I'm supposed to be turned off and recharging, work is essentially still on my brain, and it's really impacting the quality of sleep I get, even if it's not impacting the number of hours of sleep that I'm getting. Decreased motivation is another huge one that we're seeing. I don't know if you guys are, on social media a lot, or you're paying attention to everyone, who's like, oh, like I've learned 3 new languages and I've done this and that. And I get into those periods too, where I'm like crafting up a storm, or I'm outside doing yard work, and it's great. But every now and then this motivation issue comes up, where then I'm sitting on the couch for a couple days and not doing anything, and feel really unmotivated to actually get up and do anything. So that's a really common experience right now. So if you felt that, if you felt like I don't really want to write this paper, or I don't really want to do X, Y, or Z, that's something that a lot of people are experiencing right now. And the isolation really impacts that as well. I've seen a lot of memes online about like, oh man, like the introverts, we've been practicing for this forever. We're great at being, isolated and alone. But that's not entirely true, because introverts still need interaction with other people. And I am very much an introvert. I live by myself with my 2 cats, and I struggle sometimes with feeling lonely. And it can be really hard to be here by myself and to not have somebody else who's here with me. We all need that interpersonal interaction, even if some people don't need it as much as others. And that can lead it to a lot of decompensating to mental health disorders. So a lot of what we're seeing, some people who already struggle with depression, anxiety, or other mental health disorders, they might have been well controlled on, therapy, medication, self-help type things. But the increased stress is making those symptoms come back. But we're also seeing people who've never had a diagnosis who are really struggling as well. So it's not just people who've already been struggling. Everybody is really being impacted right now. And again, that increased consumption of social media, we're seeing all these every morning on the news. One of the first things I see when I wake up is that map of the country and all the red spots of where all the cases are, and how many people worldwide, and how many people have passed away. And, and that's challenging to look at that every single day. And it's so easy to get very wrapped up in that, and the press conferences every day and all that type of stuff. And also, again, comparing yourself to what other people are doing. You might be struggling, having a really hard day to get motivated, but everyone on social media is doing something fun or different, or learning a new hobby. And that can lead to a lot of negativity if we're just not feeling like that we're in the same place on a given day. So I want you guys to take a second and think about, how do you react when you're stressed? Now, I'm not talking about like what coping skills you use or what you make to make yourself do to feel less stressed. I want you to think about, what thoughts do you have? What are the things that you start thinking about when you're stressed? What are the emotions that you feel? What kind of behaviors do you exhibit when you're stressed? Like, again, I mentioned irritability is a big one for me. I start thinking about, just, this isn't going right. This is really hard. What did you do wrong? I, again, feel angry, upset, and I can end up lashing out at people. So, take a second and think about, how do you react when you get stressed, completely unchecked stress? What happens? What do you think about? How do you feel? What kind of behaviors do you put out? And then I want you to think about, times where you've kind of had that out of control stress, and then times where you've maybe felt a little bit stressed. Is it easier to reduce that stress if you're maybe at like a 4 out of 10 or at like a 9 out of 10? For me, I find that if I'm a 9, if I'm a 10 on the stress level, there's very little I can do to make myself feel 100% better. But if I'm at a 4, like if I've noticed some of these things starting to creep up, and I've then done something fun to try to distract myself, or kind of put myself in a different state of mind, it really helps a lot more. I can do stress relief much more effectively if I don't let it get to that extremely high level. And that's where things like mindfulness and just introspection, knowing yourself, come in really handy. So I'm going to talk a little bit about 5 ways that we can manage stress in COVID-19. Like I mentioned, part of stress management is knowing how to stop it before it starts or when it's at a very low level. There are a lot of things right now that we can't control, so we need to focus on the things that we actually can control. Because again, we can't stop other people from opening up their states, or we can't control anything that's going on with developing a vaccine. But what we can do is certain things in our own day, in our own lives, to keep us safe and keep us healthy. So the 5 things we're going to talk about are creating a routine, staying in touch, enjoying your hobbies, relaxation, and practicing self-compassion. So creating a routine, this is something that I've found so many people have gotten out of the habit of as soon as we kind of went on lockdown, quarantine, whatever you want to call this right now. People kind of staying up as late as they want, waking up whenever they want. And I cop to this 100%. I'm a night owl. If I had my way, I would be up until 2 a.m. and not get up until like 10 a.m. That's just the way my body works. But I still have to get up and I still have to work every day. So I have to force myself to go to bed at a certain time and to wake up at a certain time. And it keeps that routine going. I make sure I get up, I take a shower every day, and I get dressed every day. I know people aren't necessarily doing that. Sometimes they do, the mullet look, I've heard it called, where you're business on the top and then you're in like pajama pants on the bottom, since nobody can see your pajama pants. But I'm actually wearing jeans right now, and I'm very uncomfortable in my jeans, but it makes me feel more like this is a regular day. It makes me feel more like I'm going to work and I'm in that kind of mind frame. My hair is not done. It's not fancy. I'm not wearing makeup, but I've showered. I'm clean. Having regular meal times, again, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks when you can get them. Again, it's that routine, doing something at the same time every day. Making time for movement. I know that can be really hard, especially depending on where you live. I'm very lucky. I live in a suburb. I have a nice block. I can walk around. I know for people who live in a more urban environment, it's too close if people are walking around outside. But what can you do, to get a little bit of sunshine? What can you do to get your heart rate up for a little bit? Is it yoga? Is there a online YouTube video? Again, Racked or Fit, like the Shaw Center and Student Life have been doing. Just moving your body, not just sitting on the couch, sitting on the bed. Separating space for your school work type stuff and your life. So doing homework in bed, doing your work in bed is actually really not great, both for your sleep habits and for your mental state when you're trying to do your work. It kind of mixes up your brain's signals about what your bed is supposed to be for. So even if you don't have a ton of space, I know some people are in a studio apartment, not everybody has a second room that they can go to, but even just set up a little space on the floor, get like a comfy back pillow, or, set up something that you can have a separate space for work and a separate space for doing, your fun stuff. I'm at my dining room table. I can literally reach out and touch my living room couch, but dining room is for work, living room is for fun. Keeping your space clean is also really important. I don't know if anybody else is like me. I hate cleaning so much. So I don't do it enough. But the messier things get, the less I pick up after myself, the more down I end up feeling. And when I do take the time and really clean things up, it's like a weight is lifted off of my shoulders. So if we can keep our spaces clean, it really does a lot for our mental health. Making a study schedule can also be really helpful. And in that schedule, including time for fun. It shouldn't be these 6-hour blocks of studying. Like, our brains do not function that way. We can't expect them to function that way. So make sure you're including breaks. Try not to study for maybe more than 45 minutes at a time without taking a 5 to 10 minute break. And then take maybe a half an hour or an hour out at some point in time and do something fun, whether it's a family member that you might live with, or, you know, watching a favorite show on TV. I'm currently rewatching The Vampire Diaries, so I'm very much enjoying that in my breaks. So do something fun for yourself. And then that kind of goes into our next thing, which is staying in touch with people. Hopefully, you know, many of you are living with, you know, partners, family members, roommates, and do have some of that social aspect, but I know many of us aren't. So using, you know, phone, FaceTime, there's an app called House Party, Google Hangout, Zoom, to connect with other people. My family does happy hour every Friday night. So we all get on and we chat, and mostly we watch my 20-month-old niece be adorable and take her computer and, you know, run around the house while my sister is chasing her. It's a lot of fun. But I've done movie nights with my friends. So we all just kind of get on FaceTime, we watch the same movie and talk. Or again, dinner dates. Me and my friends have just sat and had dinner on FaceTime and chatted. And there's that additional connection there. Not Google Hangout, House Party apparently is now paired with Epic Games, and you can actually play games on House Party. There's also something called Steam that you can play like Jackbox games on, which are things like Drawful. I think You Don't Know Jack, which is like a trivia game. So there's all sorts of different games that we can even play remotely. I don't know if anybody has gotten a handwritten letter recently, but those are always fun. So, you know, you can always write a letter to somebody, kind of make a little pen pal with some of your friends. Drive-by socializing, which seems to be a new wave that I'm seeing. It was just my sister's birthday the other day, and she posted, unfortunately, I live a couple hours away, so I was not able to drive by, say hello, but people drove by with signs and, you know, brought some balloons and gifts, and they maintained the social distancing while still getting to see each other. Some of my neighbors got together on their decks, so again, socially distanced, and somebody was playing music and they all just kind of had a dance party, block party out there. And like I mentioned, Shaw Student Life, we're doing a lot of different activities, even into these last 2 weeks of the semester. So pay attention to the social media. We've still got lots of fun exercises, e-games, stuff going on that we can use to stay in touch as well. The third thing that we can do is hobbies. And that could be revisiting something that you used to love, something that you haven't done in a really long time. I picked up my ukulele again. I was never good at it to begin with, but that's okay. But Fender, like the guitar company, has been offering 3 months of free online lessons to people. So I decided, okay, I'll sign up for that. And so I'm reteaching myself to play the ukulele, and I'm much better at it now than when I tried to teach myself last time. Or you can try something new, try something that you've never tried before. I don't know that I've done anything new in particular, but you know, with me, I really enjoy crafting. So I've been doing a lot of different types of crafts. I also love cooking. I made strawberry cinnamon rolls the other day. You know, just fun things, different things that you don't always get to make or try for yourself when, again, my personal experience, I have an hour and 15-minute commute each way to work. So now that I'm getting some of that time back, I'm trying to do something fun with it rather than something work related with it. So again, devoting at least a little bit of time each day to something. If anyone's ever tried gardening, you could do indoor gardening. I am terrible with plants, so I won't even subject any plants to that. But, you know, read that book that you haven't had time to read. You know, write a short story. There's so many, the sky is really the limit when it comes to hobbies. Whatever you can think of that it's fun and it's safe, you know, give it a shot. I wouldn't maybe do some, you know, chemical experiments in your house. That might be a little bit dangerous, depending on what you're interested in doing. But, you know, there are plenty of safe things that we can do inside, or, you know, maybe in the immediate space outside of our homes that we can do that's a lot of fun. Excuse me, I just need to take a quick sip of water. Okay. So moving on to the fourth thing that we can do for ourselves is focus on relaxation in some way. If you didn't know, again, going back to that fight or flight response that we mentioned before, it is physically impossible for your body to be stressed and relaxed at the same time. So if we can focus on getting ourselves toward relaxed, that stress is going to go away. It doesn't mean the stressor, the thing that was making us stressed, goes away. It's still going to probably be there when we have finished our relaxation, but we're in a better headspace to be able to go back and tackle that. Again, it's about taking a break, stopping your brain for a minute and refocusing it so that you can then go and enjoy. So again, I mentioned the daily mindfulness meditations that we do Monday through Friday. That's a great thing. Yoga, if you're a very physical person. Massage, again, if you're lucky enough that you are currently living with somebody, a partner, a roommate, hang out on the couch, give your significant other a little shoulder massage or something like that. That physical touch feels really good. I bought one of, I don't know if you've ever seen those like head scratcher things. I bought one of those. So that feels really nice if I can, do a little head scratching sometimes. Taking a hot shower or hot bath, that can be very relaxing, especially again, if you have a lot of that muscle tightness, kind of having that warm water on you can feel really good. Scented candles. I know like the Yankee candles are super expensive, but you can order candles from Michael's online, and sometimes their big jar candles are like $2 or $3. So, and they smell really good too. So I have a bunch of those. Finding soothing music or soothing sounds to listen to, soft lighting. So rather than having maybe all the lights in the house on, kind of keeping the lighting a little bit softer, give your eyes a rest, especially when we're looking at the computer all day. Sometimes our eyes and our brain need that break from all that light. And when we're relaxing, we shouldn't be relaxing with our screens. Like if we're listening to music or something on our phone, turn it upside down and, have it away from you. It's really important to, again, give our brains that break from all the screens. And so and other things we can do are things like breathing exercises. So actually, I'm going to take a minute with you guys right now, and we're going to go through a deep breathing exercise, something really easy, something you can do on your own. You can do it for 5 minutes. You can do it for 20 minutes if you want. So if everyone wants to get into a comfortable position, grab more water. Staying hydrated, also very important. So if everyone gets into a comfortable position, I currently am sitting under a blanket with a cat on my lap. And what I want you to do is close your eyes and take your hands and put them on your belly. And so just kind of rest them there on your stomach. And what we're going to do is just for a second, just breathe normally. So your eyes closed, your hands are on your stomach, and you're just breathing normally. And I want you to focus your attention on that breathing. What does the air feel like coming into your body, leaving your body? Maybe do a mental scan. Check out, do you feel any tightness in your neck, your jaw, your shoulders? If you do, just as you take a breath, just relax those areas a little bit. And now we're going to try some of our deep breathing. So what we're going to do is we're going to inhale slowly for 5 counts. We're going to hold it for 2.
Okay.
And then we're going to exhale slowly for 5 counts. Hold that for 2 and then start again. So with your hands on your belly, your eyes closed, I want you to inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold 2 and exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold 2. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold 2. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold 2. So keep doing that for a couple more breaths. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. And as you're doing these breaths, continue. Do another mental scan of your body and focus on your heart for a moment. And can you feel your heart beating? Is it beating quickly? As we take breaths, can you feel your heartbeat slow a little bit? And you can go ahead and take one last deep breath. And then return your breathing to normal. Still keeping your hands on your belly and your eyes closed. Again, do a kind of a mental check-in. Are you feeling tightness anywhere? Check on your heartbeat. And when you're ready, open up your eyes and come back. So these deep breathing exercises are something that with practice, you can use to kind of calm that nervous system response, that fight or flight response. And it might take a while. You know, this is not something that we would ever expect you to do once and be perfect at, or to be able to slow that heart rate. This is something that takes a lot of practice. You know, any coping skills, there are always going to be things that you need to do more than once. Now, if you've done something a couple times, you find it's really not working at all, there's no benefit to it, then that's fine. Move on, find something else that works for you. But don't give up on something after the first try just because it doesn't feel like it worked immediately. If we think about, you know, all of the habits we've developed, very few of them are something that we did once and all of a sudden it's something we do all the time. It takes practice. If you want to be a skilled piano player, you have to practice, or in my case, a skilled ukulele player. You know, we have to keep practicing. We have to keep doing it. That's actually an exercise that I use a lot in bed. If I'm feeling really anxious before I go to sleep and I'm having trouble kind of quieting my mind, quieting my heart rate, I do those deep breathing exercises, kind of holding after the inhale and holding after the exhale. And I really focus on my heart and think about slowing down my heart rate. Because, and it, you know, sometimes it's more effective than others. It depends on how anxious I am about, you know, whatever is going on in my life. But it can be really, really helpful just to focus your mind on something other than what is stressing us out, and really using kind of that biofeedback to slow our nervous system down. So hopefully you guys liked that, and that's something that is easy that you can kind of do on your own and take with you. And then finally, the fifth thing that we can do for ourselves to reduce stress is something called self-compassion. And this is something that I've recently become very, very passionate about, because we tend to be very hard on ourselves when we're struggling with something. Oftentimes we think, I'm not smart enough, I'm not talented enough, I can't do this, you know, and a lot of negative thoughts along those lines. But if you think about, if a friend came to you with the same struggles, are you going to tell them to give up? Are you going to tell them that they suck, that they're worthless, that, you know, well, you're clearly not very good at this, so you might as well just not try anymore? Hopefully not. You know, hopefully as a good friend and a positive person in your friend or family member's life, you tell them, you know, you got this, you can do this. You know, it might be hard and that's okay, but you can do this if you put your mind to it. So why would we be so negative towards ourselves? So that's really what self-compassion is all about. Understanding we're not alone, and especially talking about how things are in COVID-19 and with final exams, you are definitely not alone if you are struggling right now. Struggling is part of the human experience. It's something that all of us deal with in varying degrees at varying times in our lives. Sometimes we're going to be up and feel like things are going really well and we've got this. Other times we're going to feel like I very much don't got this. And that's okay. We don't want to deny our negative emotions. We don't want to suppress our negative emotions. We don't want to, you know, be like, oh no, I don't feel bad at all. And, you know, I'm just going to squish all those negative feelings down and, you know, fake it till you make it has its place. You know, kind of putting on a smile or feeling, you know, pretending to be confident when we're not super confident. That has its place and its time, but we can't do that 100% of the time. We have to validate that we feel negatively about things that are going on, that we don't feel great about things sometimes, and that's okay. The important part is that we don't get swept up by those negative feelings. You know, we've all done this. Again, you're not alone in this experience where all of a sudden you kind of get into this tornado of negativity and it just kind of drags you down into this depressed feeling. We don't want to be there either. We want to be able to acknowledge the negative feelings that we're experiencing, you know, acknowledging that, you know what, I don't feel like a success right now, but that doesn't mean that I can't be successful. So it's about looking at those negative emotions, feeling them, being okay with them, but not letting them take over. So using some of these other skills that we've talked about to make sure that negativity doesn't take over. So a phrase that I heard from a colleague not too long ago was to treat yourself with grace. And this really, you know, resonated with me. You know, a lot of times we associate grace with religion or spirituality, but really it's just about, again, compassion, you know, treating ourselves with that compassion. So again, just take a second and think about this. Treat yourself with grace. When you hear that, what does it mean to you? Does this resonate with you in any way? Does it make you think of anything? What does this mean to you? And again, thinking about, you know, who has told you that they felt worthless? Who has told you that they have felt bad at something? And would you ever tell that to them? If a friend came to you and said, you know, I'm really struggling in my math class, would you say, wow, it sounds like you're really terrible at math? Or would you tell them like, well, clearly you shouldn't, you know, be doing math anymore because you suck at it? Hopefully not. Hopefully we're not sending those messages to our friends. So why would we send those messages to ourselves? Give yourself some grace. Give yourself some leeway. Things can be hard without us being a bad person, without us being a worthless person. Things are going to be hard sometimes. So the whole point of self-compassion is understanding that you're going to struggle. You will. We all do. Again, during COVID-19, some days I feel like I'm flourishing. Other days I feel like it is a challenge to get up and get in that shower and put on jeans. And some days I fail at that. Sometimes I don't put on jeans. Sometimes I'm in my sweatpants at work. You know, sometimes I'm, you know, in my hoodie and I don't feel great And, when I'm not working, I'm on the couch, I'm watching something on TV, and that's okay. We're not perfect. We're never going to be perfect. We can strive for perfection all we want, but we have to understand that we're not going to get there, and that's okay. That's fine. Nobody is expecting us to be perfect. When we struggle, we have to understand that it is okay that we are struggling. We then have to give ourselves that grace, say, okay, today is not my day, or this morning's not my morning, but what can I do? What are some of those other 4 things that I can take with me? What is a hobby I can do? What is a relaxation technique that I can do? That means that maybe I'm not going to struggle as bad this afternoon. That's one of the reasons that we do the mindfulness meditation at noon, because, sometimes the morning doesn't get off to a great start, but every moment is another moment to restart your day. We don't have to wait until tomorrow to try to make things a little bit better. Sometimes, you know what, things aren't going to be better until tomorrow, and that's just the way it is, and that's okay also. But trying to do a little something for ourselves, again, pulling out that musical instrument, or what I like to do, again, I mentioned I do a lot of crafting. Even if I don't feel like getting into a big craft, maybe I'll just pull out some paint and just even absentmindedly start painting something. It's doing something. It's making myself move at least a little bit. It doesn't mean I have to, get on the floor and do an hour's yoga meditation. Sometimes it's just getting up out of the chair and walking to the kitchen or walking upstairs for a minute. And that's okay. We're all going to have different capabilities at different times during this. And we need to push ourselves a little bit. I'm not saying don't push ourselves a little bit, because we need to. If we're feeling bad, nothing changes if you don't change anything, right? So, but we also have to understand that this is an unprecedented time in our lives. There has not been a pandemic like this in, over 100 years. And we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace right now. So what I want to leave us with is we're going to do one more kind of meditation moment, and it's going to be a self-compassion meditation. So what I want you guys to do is, again, get comfortable, close your eyes, and just start breathing normally. And just take some breaths with your eyes closed. Again, maybe do a little check-in. Do you feeling any of that muscle tension, jaw tension? Where's your heart rate at? Do you feel like it's beating hard? Do you feel like it's beating kind of more slowly at a more relaxed pace? Notice your breath going in and out of your body. Maybe put your hands on your belly. Feel the air going in and out. Just take a couple moments and be in that. And now I want you to think of a situation in your life that's difficult and is causing you stress. This could be a difficult relationship, a challenge at work or school, a concern you might be feeling for the pain of a loved one, or anything else that kind of comes to your mind. Generally it's best to go with just the first thing that your thought lands on. So just kind of put yourself in mind of that stressful situation that you're dealing with right now. And as you think about this stress, you think about this event or this situation, I want you to recognize if you feel that stress in your body. Again, checking in the different areas of your body, your stomach, your chest, your muscles, your heart. This can be different for everyone. Check on those common areas where stress and emotional discomfort are felt. Think about your tongue. Is your tongue on the roof of your mouth, or is it soft and relaxed? Are your teeth clenched together? Pay attention to that jaw. You don't necessarily have to change those feelings, just recognize that they are there and feel those feelings in your body. And as you're noticing and you're checking, I want you to say to yourself, this is a moment of suffering. Just take this moment and notice how you feel without judgment. We don't need to label the experience as good or bad. We're just acknowledging the pain or the stress that we're feeling. And then I want you to say, suffering is a part of life. Remembering that as unpleasant as it is right now, navigating these difficult situations is a common experience and one that connects you to the rest of humanity, to everybody else who's on this webinar right now, to everybody else at Montgomery College, in Montgomery County, Maryland, the world. You could also choose to say, other people feel this way, or I'm not alone, or we all struggle in our lives. So repeat that to yourself a few times. I'm not alone. We all struggle. Suffering is a part of life. So now that we've kind of felt and acknowledged that stress in our body, what I want you to do is put your hand over your heart, both of your hands over your heart. And as you breathe, I want you to say, may I be kind to myself. Be aware of the warmth of your hands on your chest and tune into that feeling of self-kindness. You can try some other phrases. May I give myself the compassion that I need. May I learn to accept myself as I am. May I forgive myself. May I be strong. So whatever that stressful experience you're feeling, come up with those words of kindness towards yourself that best fit that situation. May I learn to accept myself as I am. May I be kind to myself. May I be strong. May I give myself the compassion that I need. May I forgive myself. Just repeat whatever phrase or phrases to yourself with your hands on your heart, breathing normally for a few moments. When you're ready, you can put your hands back down on your belly or at your side, wherever they're most comfortable. And take a few more breaths. Again, checking in on the different areas of your body where you might have been feeling that stress. Notice if you're still feeling that stress. If you are, that's okay. If not, that's okay too. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the room. So hopefully that was something, again, I really like that. I think it's a good reminder of what we need to give to ourselves, that compassion, that kindness that we are giving to other people in our lives, because we deserve that too. We're no different than our family members or our friends or our classmates or coworkers. If they deserve kindness, if they deserve compassion, we deserve it as well. And so that ends my actual PowerPoint presentation. So thank you all so much for participating in those activities and learning about different ways that we can help manage stress. So we do, I think, have a couple minutes, or we started a little bit late. So I'll take some questions if anybody has any. Please feel free, put them in the Zoom chat. I've got that up. It's also very exciting that everyone who fills out your evaluation can get your stress management ebook. I haven't got to read it myself, but it seems like it's really positive, and something that I think everyone will really enjoy and hopefully get even more out of. Okay, well, I'm not seeing anything pop up in the Zoom chat. Okay, actually, okay. I'm seeing a comment. Mentioned before that we shouldn't study in our beds. Yeah, this is actually something that we see a lot in what if we sleep on the other side of the bed? It's still generally not encouraged. Oh, thank you guys so much for coming. I appreciate it. It's still generally not encouraged, even if it's just the other side of the bed. One of the things that we've put out through the Shaw Center is a tips on sleep. And what research has shown is that if we're wearing pajamas like out and about during our day, or if, you know, like kind of athleisure doubles as pajamas a lot of time, but our brain wires itself to certain things, certain places. So if our brain, we want to wire our brain to our bed so that equals sleep. Like if you guys have ever learned about classical conditioning before, Pavlov's dogs or anything like that, we want our brain, when it sees our bed, to think, okay, it's time to go to bed. It's time to sleep. Yes, classical conditioning. So again, when we put on our pajamas, we want them to be just for bed. So our brain gets in that pattern of, okay, this is sleep time. So if we're doing work in our bed, if we're reading in our bed, even if we're watching TV in our bed, you know, our brain is then thinking, okay, well, this is TV watching time, or this is work time. So it becomes harder for our brain to focus on sleep when we get into our bed, which is again why we don't want to work out in pajamas, and we don't want to wear workout clothes to bed, because our brain associates all of those things. Again, we also recognize that, you know, life is not perfect. We are not perfect. I watch TV in bed, which is also why my sleep has been disrupted, because like I said, I've been watching the Vampire Diaries and I'm not going to sleep because I'm really invested in the show. So, you know, that's a detriment to me at that moment in time. So, you know, we have to balance out the practicalities of, you know, if there's literally no other comfortable place for you to sit and do your work, yes, we might need to do some work in our beds, but you know, we should try not to have that dual purpose for that space for that reason, the way that our, you know, our brains get into certain modes. I mean, it's the same thing, like we're not supposed to have pets in our bed because pets tend to be very disruptive of our sleep. I know, again, with my two cats, they like to wander all over and jump all, you know, and do all sorts of their weird cat things in the middle of the night, and it wakes me up. But at the same time, if I try to shut them out of my room at night, they just sit and bang on the door and yell until I let them in. So it's challenging. It can be challenging to kind of find those balances. So if you know, you're feeling like you get a little bit cold, you know, maybe having a blanket that's like your work blanket. Me personally, I love throw blankets, so I have a million of them. It's what my family gets me like every Christmas is a new throw blanket. So I have one that's my work throw blanket, and I leave it on my work chair. So when I get chilly, because I'm always chilly also, that's my work blanket. And then I have my relaxing blanket over on the couch. So as much as we can differentiate, that's very helpful. So thank you. That's a great question. Are there any other questions that anybody has? Sorry, I can just like go on about like all the all this stuff. Oh yes, yeah, Vampire Diaries is awesome. Elijah was on Saving Hope, I believe. I saw that again one night when I was watching TV in bed, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Elijah. It's so cool. All right, so if nobody has any other questions, thank you all so much for being here. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend and that everyone can get a little bit of sun. All that vitamin D is very good for us. So even if it's just, you know, sticking our head out of an open window for 5 minutes, it can be really helpful. Hopefully it'll be a very nice weekend for all of us, and good luck with your finals. Good luck with your exams. You know, try to remember to do little things for yourself throughout the day that are positive and that are fun. And I think that'll be really good, and hopefully set us on a positive path for the rest of the semester. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. And thank you everyone who came in to, you know, participate in this workshop. Again, make sure please that you type your MC email into the chat box that is being used also as our virtual sign-in sheet. And I will email you a short survey on this workshop. And when you complete it and send it back to me, then I will make sure that I get you listed for the free ebook on stress management. And it looks, I skimmed it online. It looks like such a wonderful book. So we're looking forward to that and to that being able to help you. Okay. So thank you again, everyone. And hope you have a wonderful weekend, and just try to relax, take a deep breath, and get ready for what we have to do next. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.